the last undefeated team in the NFL. Chase Edmonds? Is he their best player? If I didn't know anything, I'd watch them and think like, is the quarterback the best player or is the fourth rounder from Fordham 3 years ago the best player? Holy smokes. What do you think of this team?
Well, I think you got to start with Kyler Murray, who is, I think he's on a handful of a short list of the most unique, sweet players to ever watch. That every little kid between like 8 to 16 is just going to love. Like, you don't probably meet many 14-year-olds that you'd be like, what do you think of Lamar Jackson? You'd be like, I love Lamar Jackson. Why? Because they use him in video games. If you just went to the average 14-year-old kid who's either on Pee-wees or like ninth grade football team, who's one of your favorite players in pro football, I think Kyler would come up. And I saw Scott Boras tweeted out a picture, like I follow the Boras Co. Maybe it was on Instagram. And it was a picture at the that game on Sunday at SoFi. Pre-game warm-ups, Kyler came over to him and he gave him a hug. And Boris like wrote on Instagram, like, he would have been a star center fielder, but he made the right choice and now he's dominating pro football. And he's way better than anyone could have envisioned, including the Cardinals. And if you watched him at Oklahoma, you knew he had just special attributes: his speed, his arm strength, his accuracy. But to me, if you go the short list of in the last 2 decades, the best running quarterbacks, 2 guys come to mind: Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson. I think both of those guys have a fatal flaw, and it hurt Michael more than it's ever hurt Lamar because he hasn't really been injured, is they do not slide. So they run a shitload, and when they run, like, oh, I got to get down. Sometimes they just dive head first into collisions. Kyler, if he was a pro baseball player right now, his slide would be like a top 5 slide in the league. His slide is so smooth that he pops back up, and they all know, because clearly on tape during the week, teams know, like, I'm sure a coaching point for a defensive coach, and this sucks. Like with Michael Vick or Lamar, when you catch him downfield, if you can hit him, because he's never going to give himself up. With Kyler, I bet a coaching point, if you just went to a random defensive coordinator that's played in the last couple of years, like, we tell our guys, you got to pull up a little bit because he's going to slide and then tap. You do not leave your feet with him. 2, he can make you miss. And 1, you'll probably hit him late and you'll get a penalty.
Yeah. If you can even square him up when he's sliding.
Yeah, his sliding is, to me, a separating factor for his talent.
I mean, he's no Trey Turner. It's a very different slide. Trey tries to slide as far as possible.
Yeah.
Kyler slides super, because he's such a good slider, he can slide really late. Right? Like a lot of guys who are bad sliders, you can see the slide coming because they're not exactly sure how to get down. Because Kyler is so smooth, he slides really late, which I think makes it even harder to play defense against because he can decide the last second to slide.
I think Michael Vick, I don't know if he said this when he was with the Eagles, maybe after he retired, but like when he was with the Falcons, they brought Bobby Cox over or one of his staff members to try to teach him how to slide.
It sounds vaguely familiar, actually, yeah. They probably brought out the mat with the slidable thing on top of the cushion.
Don't you think it's a huge advantage this guy just was a normal baseball player, so it's a comfortable motion for him? Because if you play, like, go to a softball game, and I remember Brian Hawkins tried me to get join his like Walnut Creek League a couple years ago. And I'm like, do you guys slide and stuff? He's like, well, sometimes guys just get really into it. And sometimes you're wearing
shorts. I'd have to wear pants. I'm not wearing shorts.
But you forget and you slide. If you ever just go out to a random, even if you played baseball in high school, whatever, I think you kind of forget the motion. It's one of those things. It can be uncomfortable if it's not a natural motion to you. Like, to me, he is as natural.
I'm pretty sure I can go slide right now on demand.
Like, get a sweet normal slide?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
As long as do I have like JV dirt or big league dirt? Big league dirt's easy to slide on. JV dirt,
Yeah, you might get a rock in your ass or something.
That's the thing about those like adult league softballs teams. It's just like, what are we playing on? Brittany on YouTube says Lance isn't a bad slider. He just doesn't slide. Is that concerning? Yes, it's a little concerning.
Well, most running quarterbacks do not slide. That is a point of difference for Kyler. At his, like, Cam Newton never slid. Lamar doesn't slide. Michael Vick doesn't slide.
The other thing he does
Russell slides, and what's his background?
Baseball. The other thing Kyler does really well, and we saw it in the Rams game, is like screen passes or swing passes to running backs coming out of the backfield are really easy for him. And again, he does it quickly. Why? Because it's like he's turning a double play. I mean, he throws it. It's like a big league double play, right? He doesn't have to turn his whole body. He just kind of gets his arm out there and kind of sidearms it. He's really good at it. So
he's also played in the spread offense now for a long time, right? It's a comfortable motion for him on top of the baseball background.
yeah.
But that is, to me, like when I see that play, I think Oklahoma. Like he's very comfortable in his environment. Like you watch Jimmy sometimes, you're like, this is just not comfortable. I watch Kyler and go, he's just very comfortable in this scheme. Like, say what you want about him, small, and I still think that when you're that small, you're eventually going to get ragdolled as he did last year. He's harder to catch. Like, you knew Michael Vick was going to get hurt because he was going to get hurt in a collision when he was running. Lamar, I think, eventually is going to get an injury. When I say an injury, it might just be a deep thigh bruise. It might be a broken rib. It might be something like that. To me, Kyler, his injury, more than likely, because he avoids hits, is going to come in the pocket when, Joey Bosa gets a clean shot on him, or something like that.
Yeah.
Mac, Nick Bosa, just a guy. Hell, it could just be a Kinlaw falls on him, right? He turns around and Kinlaw's right there. It's going to be an offensive line fuck up. But you watch him in his offense, and you did last year when he was healthy, he's a perfect scheme fit, and his ability to make plays out of his ass. Is he as good as we've ever seen?
John, fan-sided is always good for a list. I have here the top 8 wins of the Cliff Kingsbury era as of 2018. It's an old list because he just beat the Rams. And now if he beats the Niners, he's 5-0 with wins in his division over the Rams and the 49ers. Who could forget that that time they beat TCU back in 2016 with Pat Mahomes?
Do you know what his record is in the division, guy?
What year is this for him? 3? This is his 3rd year.
Yeah.
So
he's played
2-0. He probably what did he go last year? 3-3?
He's played 13 games.
I'm going to say he's 8-5.
He's 4-9.
What?
He's 2-2 against Seattle.
He's got it going now.
He's 1-3 against the Niners, and he was 0-4 against the Rams till Sunday. So he has 2 wins in 7 games against the Niners and Rams. And I think both those 2 teams have 2 things in common. One, they typically run the ball, which the Rams, they were down. So if they get a lead, they can control the clock, and their defenses are physical. And the one thing with Seattle is Seattle is kind of like a way better version, not necessarily now, but the last couple of years than Arizona, right? Great offense, defense kind of sketchy, kind of soft team, but great playmakers. The Rams and San Francisco, they say styles make fights, are the opposite of the Cardinals. And they want to get into a fist fight. The Cardinals really just kind of want to dance around and do fun shit. And watching that game on Sunday, the Cardinals were like, you know what? We're kind of physical. They laid a couple Rams out on defense. I was like, damn, these guys are hitting people. Their offense looked the same, but defensively they were flying. They were like, okay, you want to get in a fist fight? We've added a couple guys. And
I would say
their
younger
offense, players are better.
I think their running backs look physical. Chase Edmonds runs hard.
Yeah, he's a solid player. But to me, that offense, and I think you see it sometimes, when I watch Mike Leach or what's his name, Corgi. I was watching your game last week, the
Max
Washington State guy. Yeah, when your passing game in the spread is running, those running back lanes, when it's you just get a little delayed handoff and shit, those guys could hit 20, 30-yard runs. Those running backs in the high octane spread offenses can get loose. It happens a lot in college, harder in the pros.
I'll tell you, I thought there were some Mozart-like runs in that Cardinals-Rams game from both teams. Darrell Henderson had some big holes to run through for the Rams, too. I do think the Niners can hit some big plays in the run game this week. If
Mitchell's supposed to be back.
Who?
Elijah Mitchell, the other rookie.
Well, I think there's going to be.
You feel better about your run game if you got him and Sermon.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some run plays to hit this week. Maybe Lance will hit some of them. Maybe he won't. I don't know.
Well, don't you play this game like the way they won it on last year? You have to slow it down because you get this high game. You get this high pace.
Right? Is that the game you're talking about? CJ Beathard beat the Cardinals. Yeah.
When it that was the reason they didn't make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to get into a mode of we need to slow it down. We cannot, the Rams in theory could have, right? We'll get into a shootout with you. In theory, the Niners cannot play that way right now. They have to find a way, hell, even to play the Seattle game, low scoring, just a couple touchdowns in the third quarter where we're both, maybe it's 14-10, something like that. And in a weird way, it's crazy. Who would have thought we'd be talking like this, a month ago? You're just going to need Arizona to overlook / kind of let, come out flat.
Like you got to be their trap game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be their trap game. Which is harder in the division, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yes, it is.